Welcome. Some of you for the first time, some of you for the nth time. And we're going to do a question and answer tonight. So question and answer is always my favorite because I feel really good about talking about anything for 5 minutes. I usually don't have to repeat myself very much to fill up 5 minutes. So if you have any questions tonight, something related to martial arts, meditation in some way, don't ask me, what part of the hand you punch with. Something that is about like the deeper aspects of our practice. Anything at all, you can lay it on me. It does not need to be the most perfectly worded, most deep, incredibly insightful question. If you've got it, great. But I'm also fine with something that sounds just really kind of dumb to you, as long as it's getting at something great and deep. And my common disclaimer is everything that I say in this class and in every meditation is not the word from on high. This is not written in stone anywhere. This is just my experience up until this point in my life. And I promise you, if you ask me the same question 10 years from now, you'll get a much better, much different answer. But I'll give you the best that I've got for tonight. So questions, and if you do have a question at home and you're watching on Facebook or Instagram, you can go ahead and type it in and I'll watch for it there. Anybody here or anybody on Zoom, just raise your hand and I'll call on you. No pressure. Yes, ma'am.
So it is about the martial arts practice.
Mm-hmm.
So since you started practicing martial arts at age 17, have you thought seriously about quitting? If yes, what brought you back? And no,
wait a minute. Since I started, have I thought seriously about
quitting?
Quitting!
Yeah.
Oh. I get this question from somebody like once a year. Have you asked me this question before?
No.
Somebody else. So whenever somebody asks me this question, I think, Joy, I'm here for you if you need help. But have I thought seriously about quitting? Of course. Have I thought seriously about quitting for more than 5 seconds? No. Now that does not mean that it would be weird. I would say that it would be weird if you haven't thought seriously about quitting for more than 5 seconds. I'm the weird one. Who decides what they want to do for the rest of their life when they're 17, 18 years old and then actually does it? Weird people. I will say, lucky, blessed, whatever, that I just fell so in love with it when I was so young that I made it a part of my identity. And I would not know what to do with myself if I wasn't doing martial arts and I wasn't teaching and I wasn't meditating every day. I literally, I'm very happy, not to brag, but I'm a very happy person, especially compared to how I used to be when I was younger. And it's for a couple of very simple reasons. It's because of what I do, like I get to practice martial arts every day, which I love doing. It's because I meditate every day, which helps make me happy. But it's also, you guys have heard this before, but basically, you're happy if you say you're happy. You are happy if you think that you are happy. Those surveys where people ask, they do these, I don't know what they're called, happiness, surveys. But you ask somebody, how happy are you? If you think you're a 10 out of 10, then that's what you're going to answer to that question. I think I'm a 10 out of 10 happy. Am I actually the happiest person on the planet? No. Dalai Lama is probably happier than me. But I love comparing myself to the Dalai Lama whenever I can. Please don't take that too seriously. But the point that I'm trying to make is, the reason that I'm happy is because I decided early on that it's really important to me to do these few things, to practice martial arts, to meditate, and if I'm doing those things, I'm living my best life. And I've made the things that are like what I identify as, the things that I think of as being very important to me, I've made those things very doable. It would be insane to say that martial arts is easy. It would be insane to say that meditating every day for your entire life is easy, but it's certainly doable. Much more doable than, I'm going to be happy if I have a Ferrari. Probably never going to happen for me. I'll be very happy when I have 1 million students. That is a goal of mine, but I'll be happy without it If you guys help me out and we get to 1 million, great. That would be wonderful. But I can deal. So when I talk about this, I like to suggest for everybody, and it does not have to be with martial arts. Of course, it would be very self-serving, and it would be really well-serving for you if you can see that martial arts is something that's great for you. But meditation or whatever it is that is super important to you on a deep level, make it part of your identity. Make it something that you don't have to question every day when you wake up. Am I going to meditate or not? There's no question after 20 years for me meditating every day. I just do it, and it would feel really weird if I didn't. If I get to the end of the day and I haven't, I get like the shakes. I feel very odd. And it would be the same thing. Like I used to go on vacations and for a few days not get to practice martial arts, and I'd start like doing joint locks and chin on my family who I'm on vacation with, and they don't like being on vacation with me for many days in a row now if I can't practice. So make it part of who you are. Make it part of what you think of yourself as being, whatever that important thing for you is. And make this deal with yourself that as long as you're doing XYZ things, then you are, living your highest self. You're living up to your potential. You're not constantly in the back of your head like, should I be doing something better with this time? Should I, quit all this and move to the Bahamas and write the great American novel or whatever it is? I mean, be open to wherever life takes you, but if you're constantly second guessing, then you're likely going to quit, whatever it is. You're likely going to be unhappy if you're always wondering, should I be doing something else? I'll be real, there are no shortages of things to do with this life. We have both a blessing and a curse. It is a real problem, and an increasing problem for younger and younger generations because we have so much opportunity for different things to do. We end up just flitting around from one thing to the next to the next. We never really sink into it, never really get great at it. So right from the beginning, when my Sifu was talking about what it takes to get great and how you have to stick to it and just keep going through ups and downs, I just thought, okay, I'm just going to be very dumb and ignorant and just decide this is it. I can do this for the rest of my life, and if I do that, I get to be happy, and that's it. So you got to have something that you feel really strongly about, something that you love, and something that brings you happiness and is super rewarding. Make it a part of who you are, and just stop second guessing it. And at a certain point, it might become very clear that you chose the wrong thing. Okay, then stop that. Let it down, let it go right away, and move on to something that is really great. But there's a very big difference, a very clear difference in my mind, in my experience at least, between it becomes very clear and I'm always second guessing, and it's like the farmer who plants a seed and digs it up every day to look at it, and it's like you're going to overanalyze life to the point where there's no joy in it. Plant the seed, water it, give it sun, let it grow, and come back and look at it from time to time. Just like the question of the week, why do I practice martial arts? Ask yourself those questions from time to time. Ask the great deep questions. But if you are constantly asking yourself, should I quit this and move on and do something else, you never really give it a real shot. And again, that is my experience with martial arts, but it doesn't have to be yours. It should be yours with something great. Other question. I see Frida, go ahead.
Hi, good evening. I'm just curious to know what the philosophy is, if there is such one, the way, I guess, martial arts approaches life in the context of, is it preordained, or are we the captain of our own ship? And it's actually a two-part question. I would like to know how you view life. Do you feel like we are all destined to travel along a predetermined path, Or do you feel we are the ones who create our lives the way we see it, the way we want it?
I love this question, and I wish I could talk about it for the next 20 minutes, but I'm going to do my best in 5-ish. So, it would be a pretty big stretch to say that martial arts has a set philosophy on this or on almost anything, because there are plenty of martial artists who are all about violence, and there are plenty of martial artists who are like, we should be as peaceful as possible. And with something as basic to martial arts as simply like physically defending yourself, there's a huge, polarization and lots of different camps in between. With something that is much more subtly something that we might deal with in practice or in our meditation practice, I would say that there's way more variety in what people believe. So I can't really speak so much to what the philosophy of martial arts is towards this, but I'll give it a shot, and then I'm very comfortable and clear on what I believe, so then I'll give that a shot too. If everything is preordained and we have no control, we're not the captain of our ship at all, then doesn't matter if you show up to class or not, right? It's basically like whatever will be, will be. And so there is certainly a very strong sense of responsibility for us to show up and do what we can do. And I love the analogy of a ship, because this is better than the analogy of driving a car. You can much more easily control where a car is going, and you can keep it on a straight line. If you have ever tried to captain a ship before, I will tell you it does not happen that way. The wind blows, and I've been in a ship. If you want to hear a terrifying story at some point, ask me about the time that I asked if I could take out the dinghy, and the ship didn't have a sail, but the wind still blew us out into another ship. In any case, the wind will blow, the waves will rock, and you'll get moved, but you're still trying to point it in a direction. I think there's a balance like that with our practice. Life has its ups and downs, just like the waves. Sometimes the wind will blow the way that we want it to, and it won't. But what we need to do is show up and give it our all, give it our best, day in and day out, and do what we can to keep steering the ship in the direction that we're trying to go. And at some point, you've been heading in this direction, and it becomes apparent that I no longer want to go in this direction. I'm going to start steering this way. Okay. And you're still not going to go in a perfectly straight line there. But it is not just we throw ourselves in a raft in the middle of the ocean and let the current take us wherever we're going to go, because you're going to get lost at sea. Nobody will ever see you again. And if you're doing martial arts that way and you're like, let me just kind of stop having a direction, and I'm not going to go to class, I'm going to go to the garage and just kind of do my own thing, you are going to be lost to this world. So have a direction, and always be trying to take in new information to keep fine-tuning and directing yourself. My personal philosophy about this and about everything in life is that we live in a universe that is governed by laws of physics, and this is really clear-cut for me. Does not mean that it needs to be clear-cut for you, and if you believe in God or the divine, you believe that somebody else is in charge of it, and it's a force with a personality. There's a consciousness that's in charge of everything. That is totally in keeping with what I'm about to say, anyways. But let's say that there are these physical laws. The Big Bang happened, and all the matter and energy in the universe shoots out, and now everything that happened after that is just matter and energy interacting with itself in a way that is, able to be predicted by science on a small scale and totally impossible to predict on a big scale. This is the idea behind chaos theory. Actually, it's the opposite of chaos theory, which I'm not going to go into. But Essentially, I believe that everything that has ever happened is the only way that it will ever happen. There is no, what if this happened, or what if that happened? There's this show that I haven't watched a single episode of on Disney Plus, the What If for like the Marvel Universe, which I'm totally uninterested in, because there is no what if. It was always going to be this way. I haven't watched an episode, and I probably never will, because Spider-Man has just did this. This is the way that it happened. But this is both, depending on how you look at it, it is both terribly limiting and incredibly freeing, if you look at it another way. So if you think, well, it doesn't matter what I do because it was always going to be this way, it was always preordained, and there was no, if I tried to make this decision, this would happen. If I made this decision, this would happen. If you think of it in those terms and it feels very limiting and small for you, don't use it. It's not helpful. What I like to think of it in these terms, this is the way that I like to think of it, is when I screw up, there was never any other way that it was going to be. I was preordained from the Big Bang to mess this thing up. All of the history of the universe was all building up to me, slipping in front of everybody, and that was it. And that's so freeing, because it was never going to be any other way. There was no decision I could have made that would have ever changed that. It's also though important to keep in mind our personal responsibility, because if you say to yourself, it's preordained that I stay at home on the couch every night and watch TV and eat pizza, then that is what is preordained. And if you say it's preordained that I show up to the dojo, or I do, this great thing, I do move to the Bahamas and write the great American novel, whatever you decide to do is part of the whole thing, right? So your experiences in life are what is feeding into your mind, and then you have to make the decision. Now, on a super bare bones level of this, there are no decisions to be made, because all the decisions that you make are influenced by all of your experiences in life, and there is no separation in the causality chain. If that doesn't make any sense to you, or you're not interested in it, fine. What that all means is you still have the power to make decisions, because we live in the illusion that we have decisions to make, and we're always taking in information and deciding what to do, what is the next step. The idea of free will fits perfectly well into this, in my opinion, because everything can happen in the way that it was always going to happen, and yet we can still look at the options in front of us and choose. And it feels to us that we are making choices. And this is incredibly important, because if we don't recognize that we have a choice, and we don't go through life with this feeling of freedom and taking the responsibility for the choices that we make, then life is very small, and it's a very disempowering way of going about it. So feel the power that you have, make those choices, and once you've made the choice, be happy about it. Move on, because it was never going to be any other way. Other question? Sir, Josh.
Thank you. I guess antagonist is a great introduction and three words. And I'm curious, based on your experience through the practice of years, have you found that the cultivation of chi is related to the cultivation of unconditional love for all beings? And if so, how do these forces kind of tie back into kind of physical model universe, like quantum mechanics or energy? I know that's a lot, but
It is a lot. I'd love to talk about this for 20 minutes, but I'm going to do my best in 5-ish. Okay, so chi and love, interconnectedness, the oneness, these are very related, if not the same thing. And I will talk about it in this way tonight. Ueshiba Sensei, who is the founder of Aikido, they use the term ki. It's the same concept essentially as chi. It's the Japanese word for the same basic concept. And Ueshiba Sensei very famous martial artist who founded Aikido and was one of the more prolific writers and one of the more blatantly spiritual martial artists who talked all the time about the deeper concepts and the more important kind of philosophical underpinnings for everything that we do. And so he talked about ki all the time. He said, our goal in life and as martial artists is to unite our individual ki or chi with the universal chi or ki. And what this simply means is we've got our energy, but if we go through life trying to keep it for ourselves and feeling very separate and blocked off from everything else, then you're not going to achieve this higher goal. And this is what enlightenment is, right? It is being able to experience the oneness, being able to let go of this false separation, this false barrier between us and everything else, and really just be in this expansive way. And love is an incredibly important part of this. If we are allowing ourselves to really feel love, like our challenge of the week this week, which seems like a silly challenge, but for some of us it is, to tell somebody how much you appreciate them. And you can fit love right in there with that. When you're communicating it, you're really letting it out, you are feeling it, and you're letting somebody else feel it. It's great to be able to have this with one person. It's great to be able to have this with multiple people in a close group of friends. It's great to have this with eventually everything. Everyone, every atom in the universe, every quark, and however deep and tiny we want to get with every vibrating string. We got it all. I should probably leave it at that. It fits in on a, oh, you asked about the mechanical level. I started talking about it. It's because we're made out of the same stuff. It's an illusion to think of ourselves as being separate. My analogy that I love, and probably everybody else hates it, but I like to think of myself as like a hot dog in a pack, and I'm just stacked right next to a bunch of other hot dogs. And I think of myself as a separate hot dog, but if somebody came over and stepped on that package of hot dog, we're all just the same stuff, right? And if somebody stepped on the universe hard enough, it's all the same stuff. It is on a physical level. And that doesn't really get the feeling of love and of chi that I think we're trying to get out of this question, but as it works for me, it is ludicrous, absurd to think of ourselves as being separate from everything. And we've got to dig into that absurdity and laugh at ourselves sometimes, because all of the problems in life, all the ways that we block ourselves off from other people and stop ourselves from feeling that love, stop our individual chi or ki from merging with the universal, it's all little petty, silly stuff. So we should just look in the mirror and laugh at ourselves every day at the absurdity of the whole thing. Other questions? Meryl.
Sifu, I was recently watching a documentary about a cult in the 80s, and now I can't remember the name.
I love where this question is going already. Go ahead.
But it just got me wondering how cults exist, how you can protect yourself from them, and what is the difference between a cult and any organization that likes to build a community.
Do you remember which one it was? Was it the Heaven's Gate?
It was the one where they flew to South America and everyone killed themselves all at once.
Jamestown? Jonestown? Okay, got it. I didn't watch that one. But was it good?
Yes.
I'll watch it.
It was sad.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course. I don't mean was the thing that happened good. I mean, was the documentary good?
Yes.
So, what is a cult? I one time, nobody even asked me about it, I don't think. No, somebody did ask me about it. And I said, and I don't mean to make light of this because terrible things happen out there with cults, and I'm hesitant to make this joke, but I'm going to make it anyways because whatever. You're kind of in a cult. You wear the same clothes. You come in here and do weird stuff. You punch and kick each other. Who the hell does that? You sit here and you meditate and like you listen to a kind of psychotic leader like tell you this, you should punch and kick each other. Like, this is madness. That's where I'll stop the joke, because it is absolutely, I think, super important. We had a student actually who came to our meditation retreat a couple of years ago when we had the last one, and we at every meditation retreat we take everyone's cell phones so that you're not distracted by them. You don't have the option to constantly retreat back to your phones. And of course, if you need it, we give it to you. There's a telephone on site that you can use. But when he got back, his partner was like, I can't believe you gave them your cell phone. You hardly know these people. You're not going back there again. That was the last time we saw him. He talked to me about it. He was very apologetic, but like that was it. And so I'm not trying to turn this into small potatoes. There are lots of cults out there, and some of them are much less dangerous than others. If you are in a death cult, I don't even know how to talk about this in a way that would be helpful and serious. So I'm gonna try my best, but watch out. Go in with eyes open with wherever you go. I have tried to make this clear in the way that I talk about our practice. Like, if there's something you don't like that you see, communicate it. Communicate it with me. Communicate it with anybody who you feel the need to. And if you don't get an answer that you really like and things aren't going in the way that you want to go, leave, call the press, like whatever it takes. And it's really tough because there is what I would like to think of as like a pool of wisdom. There is truth. There is absolute truth, and nobody has a monopoly on it. Not me, not anybody. I'm the last person who has a monopoly on it. Everything I say, I just stole from other people. If you ever think, oh, Sifu's so great, I'm stupid. I just say stuff that other people have said, or I read it in a book. But this is not the way that people take it. I think when they find like a spiritual leader, they find somebody who's a really great communicator, and they think they equate the knowledge or the truth with the person, and that is never the way that it should be. We are all, any teacher is at best a stepping stone, and I want you to use me as a stepping stone to get to the next thing and be better and more knowledgeable than me. I want you to beat me at sparring, and I want you to beat me at meditation and everything, because that would be my truest joy, is for you to transcend me on every conceivable level. It's not going to be that hard. If you watch Enter the Dragon, this is the best version of this concept that I've seen adapted to film. In the beginning of the film, Bruce Lee is talking with one of his students, and he asks him to throw a kick, and he looks at it and he's not impressed, and he admonishes him. He says, "What was this? There was no emotional content." And then he goes into this concept about the finger and the moon, and he says, take the finger pointing to the moon. I don't know where the moon is. Let's just say it's over there. And the student in the movie looks at Bruce Lee's finger, and he whacks him in the head. And he says, don't look at the finger and miss all that heavenly glory. At best, I'm a finger pointing to heavenly glory. At best, any teacher, any leader is just pointing in the direction of reality, of real truth, of your highest self. And so you should take that direction and go, and if you find that it's the wrong direction, go somewhere else, but don't get stuck on the finger pointing. Anything that you read in a book, and I'm not trying to say that there aren't, holy texts that you should, revere, but these are words printed on paper. These are not the experience. These are not the truth. And there are lots of different modalities and ways of thinking that point at the same thing. We're all basically heading up the same mountain, taking different paths. So anytime somebody is presented as the truth and it's the person, I'd say run like crazy, because it's not what you want. Anytime somebody's starting to pull you away from the people in your life who care about you, anytime an organization is trying to say, you need to stop spending time with that person because they're trying to pull you away from us. I love the opposite. Bring them all in here, and that's also kind of cult-like, but the more people you get to look at what we do, whether it's the martial arts class or Tai Chi practice or meditation, whatever, the more we should all feel really great about what we're doing. And the more differing opinions and views that we get in here, the better we should feel. If you're ever involved with a group of people, and it doesn't have to be a cult, it could just be like one toxic personality, but somebody who's trying to shut you off from everything else. This is how bad relationships go. If somebody's trying to steal you from the world, if somebody's trying to stop you from interacting with other people because they're worried about, the way that somebody else might be pulling you, or they're worried about the way that somebody else is maybe trying to save you from them, then this is a really big red flag. So we should all be coming together rather than separating out. We should all be searching with diligence and excitement, with fervor for different points of view, and be able to see the truth and the wisdom in all of them. And whenever there seems to be like only one way, this is a really big sign that something's off. So I've loved all these questions, and I've talked for longer than I wanted to. We're going to meditate in a minute here. So I think meditation is a hugely important part of any practice. And of course, there are tons of religions that don't have meditation as part of their practice, tons of spiritual practices that don't. But you can bring any of that into your meditation practice. And I think that any kind of religious or spiritual practice should be strengthened by meditation, because on one very simple, very deep level, what you're doing is letting go of attachments, and you're letting go of noise, and you are just here to experience and feel whatever is here for you. And you can think of it like creating a clearing in your mind. When you sit and meditate, and you let go of thoughts by focusing on the breath, which is the kind of meditation that we do, or you use a different kind of technique where you're focusing on a visualization or repeating a mantra or whatever it is, essentially you're quieting the mind and stilling it and opening it up. You're opening up to whatever is there for you. And there are things to explore within ourselves. There are things to explore outside of ourselves. We're looking for this expansive feeling, this expansion of our consciousness, of our understanding and awareness. So when we get to that clearing, this is beautiful, because then anything can fill that space up. So if there's a great question that you want to ask yourself, or something that you really want to contemplate, this is distinct from meditation, because when I say meditation, I'm talking about letting go of thought, creating that clearing. But do that, and then take on whatever it is that is important or scary, or whatever is there for you in that day. After you're done with your meditation, then be ready for whatever it is. So sit comfortably.